I never expected to be fighting over my own house, especially not with my own father. But here we are. For years, I watched my older sister, Lisa, get everything handed to her. The best clothes, the newest gadgets, the endless financial bailouts. Meanwhile, I was expected to fend for myself. I didn't complain. I worked my ass off, saved every penny, and finally, at 32 years old, I bought my first home. A cozy, 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't extravagant. But it was mine. Or at least, that's what I thought. Until the day my father and sister showed up at my front door with a plan that would change everything. It started with a simple phone call. Dad wanted to drop by for a visit. I didn't think much of it, until he arrived with Lisa in tow. Something about the way they stood on my porch, wearing matching smug expressions, put me on edge. Still, I invited them in. We sat in the living room, making forced small talk before Dad finally got to the point. And then, he dropped the bombshell. "So, your sister's been going through a tough time lately," he started, his voice unnaturally casual. "And we've been thinking," he paused for dramatic effect, "you should give her your house." Silence. Then, I laughed. Like, actually laughed out loud. Because there was no way he just said that, right? Lisa just sat there, arms crossed, bored, like this was already a done deal. "She needs it more than you do," Dad continued. "You don't have a family, no kids. This house is too much for just one person." My laughter died in my throat. This wasn't a joke. He was serious. Now, let me clarify something. Lisa was not struggling. She was just irresponsible. 5 years ago, our parents gave her a house. A beautiful 3-bedroom in a much nicer neighborhood than mine. And what did she do? She sold it within a year and blew through the money on business ventures, aka pyramid schemes, luxury shopping sprees, first-class vacations. And when the money ran out, she moved back into our parents' guest house, rent-free. No job, no responsibilities, nothing. And now? Now, they wanted me to fix her mess. "Absolutely not," I said, standing up. Dad's face turned red. Lisa scoffed. "Ugh, I knew you'd be selfish about this," she muttered. Selfish. I had worked 10 times harder than her for everything I owned. I didn't get a free house. I didn't get a bailout every time I screwed up. And now, because I refused to just hand over my life savings, I was the bad guy. "You have a responsibility to help her," Dad snapped. "She's your sister." I stared at him, stunned. For years, I watched him bend over backward to enable her reckless behavior. And now that he was running out of ways to clean up her mess, he expected me to do it? That's when he pulled out his trump card. "If you don't do this," he warned, "don't expect to see a cent from me when I'm gone. I'll cut you out of my will." Oh no. Anyway, at this point, I was done playing nice. I walked to my office, grabbed a folder from my filing cabinet, and dropped it on the table. "Go ahead. Cut me out." Dad blinked. Lisa went pale. "Because guess what?" I continued, voice ice cold. "Lisa's already taken her inheritance." More silence. Lisa's jaw clenched. Dad's face drained of color. "Oh, they knew exactly what I meant. That house you gave her," I said, crossing my arms. "The one she sold for cash? That was worth more than anything left in your estate. She's already gotten her share. I, on the other hand, have gotten nothing. So go ahead, write me out. But don't come knocking when you need help. Because I won't be there." Dead. Silence. Then, Dad snapped. "How dare you throw that in our faces? After everything we've done for you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated. "You mean, watching me struggle while you handed Lisa a free ride?" "Yeah, thanks for that." Lisa finally shook off her shock and slammed her hands on the table. "That house was a gift. You can't put a price on family support." I smirked. "Apparently, you can. And it's exactly one house." Dad's voice dropped to a growl. "You ungrateful brat. You'd rather see your own sister homeless than help her out." Let's be clear. Lisa wasn't homeless. She had been living in our parents' guest house for free since she burned through her money. No rent, no bills, no responsibilities. Meanwhile, I had worked my ass off for everything I had. And now, because Lisa didn't feel like being an adult, I was supposed to hand over my house. Not a chance. I walked to the front door and opened it. "Get out." Dad's eyes widened. Like he couldn't believe I was actually kicking them out. "You can't be serious." Dead serious. Lisa grabbed her designer handbag, probably bought with Dad's money, and stormed out. Dad hesitated, waiting for me to back down. But I didn't. Finally, he muttered something about me being a disappointment and followed Lisa out the door. I shut it behind them and locked it. I wish I could say that was the end. that they saw reason and left me alone. But no, the real war was just beginning, because a few days later, I found out that Dad wasn't just cutting me out of the will. He was trying to take my house. And I was ready for him. I thought kicking them out would be the end of it. That maybe, just maybe, Dad and Lisa would realize they lost and finally leave me alone. I was wrong, because 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail. And when I opened it, I saw red. It was from my father's lawyer. A formal request to discuss the transfer of property to Lisa. Translation? Dad was trying to take my house. I barely made it past the first paragraph before I grabbed my phone and called him. He picked up on the second ring. "So, you got the letter," he said smoothly, like this was a business deal. "Are you actually out of your mind?" I snapped. Now, he said, voice patronizing. "No need to be dramatic. We're just trying to do what's fair." Fair? Fair? You mean trying to steal my house? You wouldn't be homeless, he reasoned. You make good money. You could always buy another place. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "This isn't up for discussion," I said through clenched teeth. "You have no legal claim to my house." "We'll see about that," he said casually, like he hadn't just declared war. And then he hung up on me. I stood there, gripping my phone, my blood boiling. This was no longer just family drama. This was a full-blown attack. And if he wanted to fight, he was going to find out exactly how prepared I was. I didn't waste time. I called my own lawyer and forwarded the ridiculous letter to her. "Are they seriously trying this?" she asked, amused. "Dead serious," I muttered. She sighed. "Legally, they don't have a leg to stand on. Your house is in your name. You have no joint ownership with your father or sister. This is just a pathetic intimidation tactic." I felt my jaw tighten. "So what do we do?" She chuckled. "Oh, we don't just defend, we go on offense." And that's exactly what we did. A few days later, my lawyer drafted a formal response. It was professional. It was merciless. And it basically said, "If you continue this nonsense, we will take legal action for harassment." Then, just for fun, I sent a copy of both letters to my extended family. Because if my father and Lisa wanted to play dirty, fine. But I wasn't going to let them control the narrative. And oh, did it backfire on them? I expected some backlash. After all, Dad had always been the favorite among his siblings. But I underestimated just how badly this would blow up in his face. Because once the family saw the letters, they lost it. "Uncle Robert, you tried to steal your own daughter's house. What the hell is wrong with you? Aunt Linda, this is disgusting. You raised her and now you're trying to ruin her life. Grandma, if you do this, you're dead to me." Even my father's own brothers turned against him. And my favorite? Cousin Jake. "Damn, Uncle Steve, you really out here being the villain in a Lifetime movie?" It was beautiful. My dad went from controlling the family to being a complete outcast within days. And Lisa? She tried to play the victim. "I'm the one suffering here. I just needed a home, and my selfish sister is making me look bad." But nobody, and I mean nobody, bought her act anymore. After a week of silence, my dad finally called me. I picked up, not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to hear him admit defeat. "You really turned the family against me," he said bitterly. I smirked. "No, Dad, you did that. I just made sure they saw it." Silence. Then his voice lowered. "Drop this. Let's just move on. Move on." After he tried to legally take my house. After he sent a lawyer after me. After he called me selfish for not handing over everything I worked for. I took a slow, satisfied breath. "No, Dad. We're done. You're out of my life for good." Then I hung up. And this time, I was the one who ended the conversation. After that, my dad and Lisa vanished from my life. No calls. No messages. Nothing. And honestly, it was peaceful. I had my house. I had my life. And most importantly, I had one. But I should have known. People like them? They never stay gone for long. Because just when I thought I was finally free, Dad came back. And this time, he wasn't asking. He was begging. Months passed. Months of peace. Months of silence. Months of finally being free from my father's and Lisa's nonsense. And just when I thought they had finally given up, my father came back. But this time, he wasn't here to demand. He was begging. It started with a voicemail. A number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's your dad. I know we haven't spoken, but I need to talk to you. Please call me back." I stared at my phone. A few months ago, this man tried to steal my house. Now, he was asking for my help. I ignored it. But the messages kept coming. "Please, just talk to me. It's important. I know I messed up. but I need you right now. And finally, I have nowhere else to go. I let that one sink in. And then, for the first time in months, I called him back. Dad picked up immediately. You actually called, he breathed, like he hadn't expected me to. You have 2 minutes, I said flatly. He hesitated. Then, I lost the house. I blinked. What? The bank took it. Foreclosure, he admitted, voice hollow. I leaned back, stunned. My father, who had spent years lording his success over me, acting like he was untouchable, had lost everything. And what does this have to do with me? I asked. A long silence. Then, I need a place to stay. I almost dropped my phone. I started laughing, not out of joy, not out of malice, but because the irony was too much. This man, who tried to steal my house, was now asking if he could live in it. You can't be serious, I said, still laughing. I wouldn't ask if I had another option, he muttered. I took a deep breath, composing myself. So let me get this straight, I said. You tried to take my home for Lisa. You threatened me, tried to cut me out of the family, and sent a lawyer after me. And now that you've lost your house, you think you can come live in mine? Silence. Then, the weakest voice I had ever heard from him. I don't have anywhere else to go. It was pathetic. And honestly, it should have made me feel sorry for him. But it didn't. Because in that moment, I realized. He never cared about me. Not really. I was just a convenience. A backup plan. And now that Lisa had drained and dry, I was the only person left. But here's the thing. I wasn't a safety net. You want to know what's funny? I said. What? When you tried to take my house, you told me I could always buy another one. So now, why don't you do the same? I could hear his breathing change. You can't do this, he said, his voice sharpening. No, Dad. You did this. A heavy silence. Then, I'm your father, and I'm your daughter. That didn't mean anything to you when you were screwing me over. So why the hell should it mean anything now? He didn't answer. So I gave him one last gift. Good luck, Dad. And then, I hung up, blocked his number. And just like that, he was finally out of my life. I found out later that he moved in with Lisa. 2 entitled people, 1 small guest house, and absolutely no money. I wasn't there to see it, but I knew it was hell for both of them. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better ending, because I didn't need to ruin his life. He did it to himself. And me? I walked away with my house, my peace, and the best revenge of all, a life without them. For weeks after that final call, I expected something. Another guilt trip. Another fake apology. Another attempt to worm his way back in. But there was nothing. And that silence? That was the real victory. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next betrayal. A month passed. Then 2. And then, a message popped up from an unknown number. Dad is impossible. I don't know how you put up with him for so long. I stared at the screen. Lisa. Of course. I shouldn't have been surprised. The minute Dad became useless to her, she was done with him too. I didn't respond, but I did smile, because watching them destroy each other, that was karma in its purest form. Another month passed. Then, one final voicemail. I know you probably don't care, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I let it play. I should have treated you better. I should have appreciated you. I see that now. I rolled my eyes. This wasn't an apology. This was desperation. If you ever decide to forgive me, just know I'd love to hear from you. Click. The message ended. And me? I deleted it. Because I wasn't interested in a relationship built on regret. He didn't miss me. He missed what I could do for him. And that was something I'd never give him again. After that, life became lighter. No more calls. No more family drama. No more being used as a backup plan. And with every passing day, I realized I had built a life without them. A home that was mine. A future that was mine. A happiness that they could never touch again. And that was the best ending of all. Because in losing them, I had finally found myself. Weeks turned into months. And every single day, I woke up with the same realization. I was happier without them. No guilt trips. No manipulative phone calls. No one trying to take what I built. It was peaceful. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next betrayal. I was just living. I hadn't heard from Lisa since her last pathetic message. Until one day, I got a call from an old mutual friend. Did you hear? She asked. Hear what? She laughed. Your sister's in trouble. Again. Of course, she was. Lisa had never learned. And sure enough, she had racked up debt again. Maxed out credit cards. A failed business venture. Borrowed money she couldn't pay back. And now, she was facing eviction. I think she's hoping you'll bail her out, my friend added. I smiled. then she's in for a long wait. Because I wasn't saving her this time. Then, a few weeks later, I got another message. Not from Lisa, from a distant relative. Hey, I don't know if you care, but your dad isn't doing great. He's struggling financially. I read the text twice. Then, I deleted it. Because after everything he did, after trying to take my house, after cutting me out when I refused, he deserved exactly what he got. And I had nothing left to give him. They expected me to come running back, to forgive, to rescue them, to act like none of it had ever happened. But I never did, because my revenge wasn't anger. It wasn't fighting back. It was walking away. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing for them. No anger, no resentment, no guilt, just indifference. And that was the real victory. Months passed without a word from her. Then, out of nowhere, Lisa, I know you hate me, but please, I need help. I stared at the screen. She had never said please before. She had never admitted that she needed me, but I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I left her on read, because her problems weren't mine anymore. Then, one day, an unknown number called. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hey, a weak voice said. It took me a second to recognize him. My father. I just wanted to talk. I waited. I know I screwed up, he continued. And I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to hear your voice. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered. He didn't feel sorry when he tried to take my house. He didn't feel sorry when he sided with Lisa every time. He didn't feel sorry when he cut me off first. And now that he had nothing left, now he wanted to just talk. I exhaled slowly. I moved on, Dad, I said. You should too. Then I hung up. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel bad about it. I had spent years trying to prove myself to a family that never truly cared. And the second I stopped trying, I found peace. I built a home filled with love, not obligation. I surrounded myself with people who valued me, not what I could give. I created a life that was truly mine. And they became nothing more than a lesson. Because at the end of the day, blood means nothing if there's no respect. And when I finally walked away from them, I won. A full year passed. A year of peace. A year of freedom. A year of finally living my life without them. And in all that time, I never once looked back. Until one day, an email arrived. From unknown. Subject, just one last thing. I knew exactly who it was before I even opened it. And for a second, I almost ignored it. But curiosity won. I clicked. I know you'll probably delete this, and I don't blame you. I just wanted to say I get it now. I was awful. I hurt you. And I lost you because of it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to even reply. But I needed to say it. I'm sorry. It wasn't from my dad. It wasn't from Lisa. It was from both of them. One single email. A final, desperate attempt to fix what they had broken. I read it twice. Then, I deleted it. Because I wasn't interested in their regret. I wasn't interested in their apologies. I wasn't interested in them. Not anymore. Years passed. And in that time, I built a life that was truly mine. A home filled with peace, not guilt. Friendships based on respect, not obligation. A future shaped by my choices, not their expectations. And the best part? They became nothing more than a distant memory. Because in the end, I didn't need to ruin their lives. They did that all on their own. And me? I just walked away. And that was the real victory. Because for the first time, I was finally free.